is the Visionary Voice series, and I'm Lori DeGardi. I'm here with Barb Teicher, who is a woman in leadership, and she works with women leaders. Barb, can you tell us in a few sentences what you do?
Essentially, I accelerate women in business to be more influential leaders that have a greater impact in the companies that they work with.
Thank you. And the Visionary Voice series is about women leaders and what makes them lead with personal power. So though we know Barb works, because she told us, with women leaders, what we want to know is what makes her powerful. So that's what we're about to find out. So Barb, what is it that you think, when you look at the way you live your life, what makes you able to lead with personal power, or what does that look like in your life?
Well, I think the key, Lori, to what you said is in your life, because I know this is different for everyone. In my life, I think a lot of that comes from the faith I have. And so that gives me a confidence that when I do what I do, it's not that I go out and shout that, but I think that someone may look at me and go, wow, what is the it that she has? And I think that it is different for everyone. And for me, that's what mine is, and that manifests itself, if you will, in what I do and how I work with the clients that I have. And it gives me a confidence and a peace, I think, that comes across as strength to other women leaders.
Okay, so you're saying that you have a faith,
Yeah.
and somehow that fortifies you with confidence. And what did you say with women leaders?
I think other female leaders can feel that confidence, and from that confidence, or that presence, if you will, it also reinforces the fact that I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm confident in my experience and expertise in that area.
Okay. So, and I feel that from you as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the other thing that's really important in my line of work in the Visionary Voice series is what your unique something more is. You mentioned that that's your thing that helps you lead with personal power, and
Right.
it gives you confidence, and women can feel that.
Right.
Would you say that's also your unique something more? Like, what makes you, like, yeah, is there something more other than your faith that is your uniqueness? Does that make sense?
It does, because I think what you're getting at, Lori, and what I'm feeling is when I work with other folks, and she says, what is that it, if you will, I am very fortunate that I can connect quickly to anyone, to women, to men, whatever. And when I say connect, what I mean is develop those relationships that actually result in a trust. So I have the ability, and it comes naturally to me, I hope, to make anyone I'm speaking to, regardless of their level, feel valued and accepted, and a trust relationship kind of starts to build. So those connections that I have with people, I think, make them feel comfortable, and that might be a unique gift that I have, because people are a strength of mine. I enjoy that communication.
Yeah, so trust is so important, because when you feel that trust with another person, that connection that you're talking about, and you're safe.
Right.
And that's very powerful. So not only are you having that as a source of power for you, but you're giving the gift of somebody to trust you so that they can be authentic and act from their personal power as well.
Right.
That's how I see that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Great.
think you're
Okay.
right.
Good. So the other question I love to ask and have the answers for, based on your life, because I know you're educated and you worked with, countless women leaders, but based upon your life and the way that you lead as a woman, what are the top 3 leadership qualities that we can learn from you and the way you conduct your leadership in life?
Wow. And this may be surprising, because I know there are ones that are typical for leaders, and they say, oh, this, and this. But I truly think that my 3, the first one would be insight, the ability to not only read between the corporate lines, if you will, but when someone starts a project, it's not just what are they asking for. It's thinking from the outside in and acting from the inside out. In other words, not just what's the data and what are the facts and figures and what do they want, but also how will this impact the people that are working on this? How will it impact the client, et cetera, et cetera? So the first one would be insight. I think the second one would be influence. How do you build that influence not only with your peers and possibly with the folks that you report to in even higher executive offices, but also maybe the folks that report to you? So for instance, if you have influence, you don't have teams that are disengaged. You don't have teams that are demotivated. You have teams that want to work, that want to get together, that are working towards a common goal. And they look to you for that vision. So I think that would be the second. And the third would probably be the impact that I would say needs to be measured or defined. It's great to have a project and it's great to do it well. Then it comes to the so what, right? Is there an outcome? Is there a return on that investment? Is there a monetary gain? What is it that you're doing this for? So can you measure what the result is? Now that might sound funny because it may be we have Division A that doesn't really play well with Division B, right? The insight is if we work together, we're both going for a common goal. How do I get that influence? It may be better communication. It may be reaching out to them, even though we don't usually do that. And the impact is that the culture is stronger for that. So those three, I would say, insight, influence, and impact.
Okay, so insight, influence, and impact. And I know those are three big qualities that you bring to your work and the women that you lead with. So I just want to dig a little deeper here.
Okay.
I would like to know how those manifest, or those qualities of being or goals. I'm not sure how qualities, that's what I asked you for, leadership qualities. How do they come alive in your life, your personal life as a leader? You know, how do you have insight? If you could give us just a sentence or two of that, how you've determined your influence and the impact that you make. Like, how are those qualities alive for you in your life as a leader, as a woman leader?
Well, I think there are two answers to that that I'll keep brief. But I think it's not just in your business life. I think you need to have insight, influence, and impact in your personal life too, whatever that is. But as far as the leadership life, which is what you asked me for, how I see that, when I work with clients, I need to have the insight to know not only what it is they say they need, but also to be able to read between the lines myself and know what they may need that they may not even be aware of. Sometimes we have this tunnel vision, if you will. So that's one thing. How do I interpret not only what they need that they say they do, but also the corporation or the folks they impact? The second one, with the influence, I believe that I am able to show folks not only what they know, but what they don't know, to see here is an area that you may need some development in. You may need to polish or sharpen the saw, as they say, that they may not be aware of. The influence also, do you feel your career is stagnating? You know, are you not getting the visibility of the executive office? Or do you say something as a woman and people go, oh, that's nice. But a man or someone else says the exact same thing 10 minutes later and they're brilliant, right? Why is that? It's because you need to sharpen those influence skills that you may not know you need, which I feel I do well.
So let me interrupt you there.
Please.
So tell me about the influence you have. I would like to really keep it personal to you.
As far as my work, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I may, I'll share a short story.
Okay.
There was a woman that saw me speak who was the executive director of a company. I'll call her Amy because that was her name. Teasing. But anyway, Amy called me into their company for two reasons. One, while they enjoyed having a lot of women in management positions, the challenge was that their teams were disengaged. They weren't motivated. It was almost like she would say something and they would say something and the teams would totally disregard what they were asking. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't have any influence, right? And so in that, what I was able to do for them was to help share with them the skills that they needed and what they weren't seeing. They were missing the insight of what those teams were saying that they didn't get. With the executive directors, I also worked with them. And while they had authority and influence are two different things. So the influence that I had with them was that I was able to help them see not only that the authority needed to work in certain ways. But Amy was facing several challenges, and I have a system that I shared with them, the Propeller system, and they followed those steps. And she sent me an email and said, oh my gosh, by following the steps that you suggested, we faced some really difficult situations that turned out extremely well. And they ended up getting an email from their EVP that said, job well done. And I love that because it showed the impact that I was able to have on their team. And there are a lot of emails like that. But I think the joy I get and the impact I have is from seeing the system that I bring them through have results in other people's organizations.
So what I heard you say is that your expertise and your experience and that confidence that comes from your faith, you're able to that's an influence you have, and people hire you or work with you for that expertise,
Right.
and then it changes their life. You have a big impact. So you're living that through your work.
I do, and you hit on something too. Just like you, who are extremely credible, I do think people look at the folks they hire and say, what is their credibility, right? So when you've been on the networks or endorsed by great people, I do think that lends the credibility that opens the door. But you build your own credibility just like you have to.
Thank you. So we learned what your faith helps you lead with personal power.
It does.
Because it builds confidence and people can feel that.
Yes, I think
And
so.
then you have this ability to connect with people on a deep level.
I do.
So they trust her, right?
Trust is important.
Which
Yes.
is another source of your personal power. And then you not only teach people how to have that insight and develop their influence for impact, but you're living that.
I
So
am.
that's she's walking her talk basically with her leadership. Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do. I do.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Visionary Voice series.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.